Hi, so my name is Mali Adipo, and today we're going to be talking about using same-day rewards to increase the deworming uptake in rural Kenya, specifically the Nyanza region. Sorry. So our team looked at a simple question, and we wanted to see if deworming is so effective and cheap, why aren't more children receiving it? And can a small behavioral incentive help solve that? So the first thing we looked at is that deworming is actually one of the highest return interventions in global health. It costs about $1.36 per child annually, but could generate over 3,000 in lifetime earning gains. And that's about roughly like 2,400 times the return. So the issue isn't whether it works, because it clearly does. The real question is why is the uptake so low and even when like treatment is free? So we want to look at the problem. In Kenya alone, over 3 million children have intestinal worms, which cause anemia, malnutrition, and cognitive impairment. And when they have things like this, it can lead to them being absent from school, which is roughly around 25% of students that are absent. And when they're absent from school, it leads them to earn about 20% less as adults. But even when deworming pills are free, parental consent rates are often below 50% in high burden areas. So we know that access isn't the main barrier. It's something behavioral going on. So we want to look at the present bias. Why aren't free pills enough? And this is where the behavioral economics comes in. Parents face a trade-off. The benefits of deworming are in the future and feel abstract. They don't know that getting their child dewormed can actually benefit them. They don't see the actual in-faced costs. But this cost, like time, the costs take time, effort, or uncertainty. Those things are intermediate. And this creates what we call the present bias, where people overweight today's costs relative to future benefits. So even a free high impact intervention can be underused. So our idea is to use same day lunch to increase the deworming consent. So what we'll do is pair deworming with an intermediate reward, and this reward being free lunch. We'll test whether this can increase the parental consent. This shifts the decision from instead of only future benefits, families will also get an intermediate and tangible one. So why are we choosing the Nyanza region of Kenya? So we want to look at their high worm burden, their strong school system, the socioeconomic, and the policy support. They have a very high worm prevalence, which is around 60 to 70%. They have a strong school infrastructure with high enrollment and existing feeding programs and government support. So it is a high need setting where implementation is actually feasible. So the why this deworming works. There is strong evidence that both deworming and incentive work. Deworming improves education, reduces absenteeism, and programs like conditional cash transfers have increased health services by up to 30%. So we're combining two proven ideas, a highly effective health and intervention plus a small intermediate incentive. So now we're going to look at the intervention design, which is going to be the deworming plus same day lunch incentive. The innovation is to test if lunch reward increases the parental consent of deworming. Who gets it? Students ages 6 through 12 with their parental consent. And then what happens is free pills twice a year, and then only treated students get free lunch. Why lunch? Because it's intermediate, visible, and this is just something that the parents might be motivated to get because it's lunch, it's food, everyone likes food. And it just makes the behavioral economics more stronger. So our timeline is roughly around 18 months. The first 3 months will be used for preparation and randomization, which will be roughly around like 100 schools. And then for months 4 through 10, it'll be the implementation with 2 treatment rounds. And then months 11 through 14 will be for the evaluation. And then the final months will be used for scaling decisions. This timeline gives us enough time to measure both short-term and repeated effects. So now we're going to look at the RTC design, and RTC stands for Randomization Control Trial. For this, we'll have 100 schools, 50 receiving deworming plus lunch, and the other 50 receiving only deworming. Um, we're going to then compare the outcomes like parental consent and school attendance. This ensures we can isolate the effect of the lunch incentive. So our expected results, what we can expect is a 15 to 25% point increase in parental consent, a smaller but meaningful increase in attendance, roughly around 3 to 7%. And then we also expect strong effects among lower income households where the intermediate reward matters more, meaning that if they aren't making enough money, they might see this lunch incentive as motivation to get the deworming vaccination. And now we're going to talk about the critical risks. There are a few. We have things such as the spillover effect, which means different schools or the control schools may learn about the lunch program. We have lunch delivery consistencies, like late food, kitchen failures, the food might not taste good, things that might make trust drop. We have the short-lived effects. Um, this effect might fade over time. Consent can drop in later rounds. Then we have external validity. Uh, Nyanza's unique conditions may not generalize to other regions. It might not be the same. Other regions might have different areas where schools are closer to hospitals or households are farther away from schools. So it's like they may not be able to go get the vaccine. And then for our monthly budget, how we see it is that the total cost is about 65,000. It'll take roughly around 1,800 for the deworming. And then we have school lunches, which will be about 15,000, nurse training 5,000, and so on and so forth. But the total cost will be roughly around 65,000. And then when we do this, we have to consider the legal and regulatory requirements. We want to make sure we follow these strict ethical guidelines. If not, our experiment might not be as trustworthy or ethical. So parental consent is required. We have to make sure the parents consent to the deworming. Even if they don't want the lunch, even if they don't want to do it, we have to respect their decision. The government and Ministry of Health partnerships are in place. Without these, we won't be able to do it. The data is always anonymous. We can't reveal who's what, like that just has to remain anonymous. And the WHO protocols are followed. So the program is both ethical and scalpable. And then any future questions, research questions, and extensions we may have. Future work could test different types of reward. They might not want to do lunch. They could do school supplies or electronics, something that might have more value than lunch. Um, there might be timing of incentives. They might give it at a different time or delay the awards. Um, the way they communicate, they might do girls versus boys. There's just many ways that our experiment can help refine what works best. And here we just have the appendix, an overall explanation of how these costs will be broken down. But overall, our project shows the small intermediate incentives can help overcome behavioral barriers and unlock the full potential of a highly effective health intervention. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and hopefully we'll be able to move forward with this. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. And thank you for listening.